Welcome to Sacred Things. This series of videos is dedicated to sharing truths that the Lord made real to me and helped me to live out as I went through the devastation of sexual sin in my marriage. I call them sacred because they came to me as I cried out to God for the wisdom I so greatly needed during that difficult time. My desire is that you will find hope, direction, practical answers, and spiritual insight into how to deal with and live with a man addicted to sexual sin. A lot of the guys, the men, have had ups and downs in their journey. They do good for a while and they crash. They do good for a while and they crash. That dynamic could definitely cause a woman to feel like, I'm never going to be able to actually be free. And fear is one of the undealt with issues that a lot of wives carry around in life.
You know, it's funny because in my own life, I think probably over the last year and a half have realized just how much fear plays a part in my own life. Yeah. And I remember thinking, what do I do about this? Because you feel almost helpless. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't do anything about this. And one day, I felt like the Lord spoke to me and said, Nate, this is no different than lust. Yeah. What happens when you have a lustful feeling? Mm-hmm. You kill it. Mm-hmm. So what happens when you have fear? You kill it. Yeah, you replace it. You put something else there. So what is that something else for a wife?
Well, what is fear? Fear is fear. Fear, you're afraid of something. So what you need instead of fear is faith or trust, because that is like the counterpart to fear is to trust or to have faith. And this, again, is the process that every Christian goes through in every aspect of life. Something has to replace what's natural to you. Something has to replace your natural tendencies and bent. Okay. And that is faith in the Lord. This love relationship that we have with God. The koinonia that we have with God changes us. That's why we tell everybody you have to have a time with God every day, or what I'm talking about will not happen. Mm-hmm. There has to be this union and this communion and this fellowship with the Lord. He is the source of you overcoming lust, of a wife overcoming fear, overcoming fear of the future, fear of losing everything. Jesus has to be the thing that is in place of her fears. He has to be that. Nothing else is going to come along that is going to give you what you're looking for. You're not even going to get what you're looking for in your husband if your husband were perfect. I have as near perfect a marriage as I could ask for. My hope ain't hanging there because I am human. I am fallen. My husband is fallen, and I know this. My hope is in the Lord. Christians have, in this culture, been so inoculated and so numbed to the reality of how much they need the Lord. They think of God as a sugar daddy, and that He is there to fix all my problems, all my woes, give me all the stuff I need. And they have you know what, to be honest with you, He is a big disappointment to so many Christians because He's not satisfying that. You
mean He's not giving them what they want?
Yeah, He's not satisfying that thing that they think He's supposed to do. And He has lost His rightful place in the hearts and minds of a lot of believers. Because in our nation, in this culture, in our society, God is a sugar daddy. Mm-hmm. And women and men struggling with lust I could say this easily. Men struggling with lust are disappointed with God because he hasn't come along, snapped his fingers, and taken this nasty monster out of them. A woman disappointed with God because he hasn't made my husband love me and do the right thing. And that comes out of a very, very wrong idea of who God is. And so we've become as a people in this country and probably in the world, we have become very self-centered, self-focused. And God is there to satisfy all that self stuff. So when your hope is in a person, your bottom is going to drop out.
Even if he's actually legitimately doing well.
Yeah.
So you're saying that husband's performance, there is no level that he can attain that can satisfy the attitude and the spirit that you're talking about if a wife is just given over to fear or anger or bitterness or whatever.
Those things have to be dealt with. I had to deal with my issues long after Steve got his heart right with God, long after he was doing the right thing. I had to deal with me and the stuff that was in me, because it doesn't just go away just because he started doing the right thing. That was me. That's who I am. That's who I was. That is what was coming out of me. And so Steve getting it together and doing the right thing didn't take care of me. Yes, now I have peace in my home. We have a loving relationship. It's wonderful. Everything's amazing. But I'm still, I'm not hanging my hope there. My hope is in the Lord, and it always will be. And I'll tell you something else, especially I want to say this to younger women. You don't realize it now, but in 10, 20, or 30 years, you're going to realize how much time you blew by waiting for him to get it together so you can have your happiness. You better find it in Christ right now. And go after him with everything you have, because you will find that him doing it, getting it all together, yes, it's a blessing, and yes, I hope it happens. It's amazing, it's wonderful, but it's not the answer to your issues. You're going to find out after he has gotten it together, 10 years from now, you've got this thing in you, this fear that's driving your life, this bitterness that was never, the root of it never got clipped off. And it just keeps springing up. So you can blame your husband for your fears, and you can live an empty life because you can't put any hope in him. But you don't have to.
You know, I don't know if this is going to even speak to women. I'm just saying this because it's interesting to me. But it really reminds me of the mindset that was in the Jewish community when Jesus came on the scene. Because their whole mindset was that when the Messiah comes, he's going to throw off the Roman oppressor, he's going to exalt us back to the place that we thought he was promising us. And when Jesus came, his message was, nothing in this world has to change except you.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And God never went after the husband to help the wife. He doesn't operate that way. I've said this before, it's in the public, whatever. I used to ask God to kill Steve, because I really did believe in those early days that if he just went away, all my problems would be solved. And I could go on with my happily ever after. Boy, was that ever wrong. That was really, really wrong. Now, I know that there are lots of women who have gotten stinky marriages, got divorced, and went on to marry and lived the happily ever after. But I know, spiritually speaking, there is undone business inside that person. and that God is going to have to, if you belong to Him, He corrects and disciplines those whom He loves. And that correction can come in a lot of different ways. So, and He will deal with us. He does deal with us. He is not going to leave us undealt with. So, and this is the process for a wife too. Even though she is a victim, she has to deal with her stuff.
Yeah. And get her hope and her eyes in the right place.
That's right. And I'll tell you something, doing that, man, you can go through anything when your hope is in the Lord. You really can. You can go through anything. You can handle stuff. Doesn't mean that you don't cry tears and that you don't feel pain, but you can do it and not become something else that God never intended for you to become, and you don't have to live a miserable existence.
Yeah.
You can be free.
Yeah.
Suffering, I know so many people who suffer so much and do it with such joy because their hope is in the right place. And that's the only way you can do this.